Hey Owen, hey Zach, this is Pip. Hoping to send you a story by the internet today. So here goes. Let's see how this works. Talking this way. The story takes place. Well, first the name of the story. I decided I was going to give the story a name, and I'm calling it Spilled Soup. Reason it has that name is that it starts at lunchtime. And Steggy invited Trixie to come over to have lunch at his house because he was so happy his mom had made his favorite soup. And this soup had honey in it, and it had lots of leaves that his mom had taken from different trees. And he thought it was just delicious. So Steggy uh, uh, waited at the door. When Trixie arrived, he brought him over, sat him down at the table. His mom delivered two bowls of soup, and Trixie looked at his soup and he kind of looked at it and said, "Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Stegosaurus." And just what he knew was it was not going to be his kind of soup because the idea of eating a bunch of grass and leaves was not just what he was looking for, but he did it and he ate it and he finished his bowl. Well, Steggy finished his bowl sooner and he asked for a second bowl from his mom. And his mom said, "That's great." And she brought him a big full bowl. And Steggy thought he was going to be real clever. And he said, "Watch this." Well, instead of just putting his snout into the bowl as it sat on the table and drinking it that way, he picked it up with his two front hoofs and he was just about to start guzzling it down when all of a sudden he couldn't hold it straight and it crashed on the floor and this big bowl created a lake, and then the lake went away because the lake of soup went underneath the wall. That his house was not made as nice as your house is, and the walls and the floors didn't really connect well. So his mom was kind of unhappy, and she said, "Okay, Steggy, out of here, out of here, out of here, and go clean up that mess. We don't want to have a whole pond full of soup sitting outside of our wall." So Steggy and Trixie both went out. And Steggy was looking down and he saw the pond of soup and he's trying to decide what to do. He thought, well, maybe I'll kick some dirt in it and just make it go away that way. And he looked up and he was staring right at the eyes of a giant insect. Something like an ant, only so big it was as big as he was. And he said, he started breathing so deep he didn't know what to do. He kind of froze. It was so scary looking. It had big antennae that were as long as his legs coming out of the side of its head. And it had a mouth that looked like a bunch of saws and knives and stuff. And he couldn't move. He was frozen. Good thing that Trixie was out there with him, and Trixie pulled his tail and pulled him back away from the ant, and uh, they just kept going backward and backward, and finally they're so happy that that big insect did the same thing, and they watched it walking away. After it got far enough away from them that they weren't scared anymore, they decided to go follow it and see where it came from and what it was doing. And they went into the deeper woods for a bit and they saw that there was a gigantic tree had fallen over. It was a log now. And they saw the ant go into it. And they went and they peered in. They couldn't see any more. But then they heard rustling sounds inside of the log, and they got very scared, and they backed up and got back a little bit, and then they saw there were lots of these giant insects in there, and there was such a crowd of them. They got back even farther and just kind of peered over the edge. And Steggy said to Trixie, I don't know what to do here, but we can't have these gigantic things around us. What happens if they get angry or they come in the middle of the night when we're not noticing? So the two boys went back to the house, and Trixie had the idea, how about I go find Q and see what his ideas are? So they both went together out in front of the house, out to the clearing where Dino Town had this nice open space. And Trixie just called out. He said, Q, come on in. Where are you, man? And they heard the top of a tree rustle and shake, and the leaves came down a little bit, and the branch came down, and whoop, followed right by Q. And they explained to Q what the problem was, and they asked him if he had any ideas. And Q said, well, I have seen this kind of thing before, and I know why those ants went to your house. It's because they like sweet things, and you had honey. So how about this idea? How about if I go in the forest, fly around, and see if I can find some beehives that have honeycombs there, and maybe we trick them into going away? Well, Steggy and Trixie said, sounds a good idea to me. I don't know what else I'd do. So Q flew up, came back with a big honeycomb, and flew over the boys as the boys showed Q where all these giant insects were. And Q was hovering over, but there were no insects. So Steggy said, I gotta get their attention. So Steggy got real close and put his snout up against the log and made a ding ding like he was knocking on a doorbell. And then he ran back, and he went back, and whoa, an ant poked its head out, and it was one of those scary ants. So Q came flying down slowly, and he let the ant sniff the honey that he had in his claws. And they liked it, and they followed him with their eyes. And then he went and sat on the ground over a ways away from them. And they started walking toward him, and so Q flew up again, and he flew away back through the trees. And as he got through the trees, there came a clearing, and he called to Steggy and Trixie. Said, "Come for it, come quick! I need you here! So Steggy and Trixie came quickly, and Q said, "I need you to find a place I can put this down." And Steggy said, okay, we'll do it. He said, I have seen ants before, and they make things called ant hills. They make big piles of, I don't know, dirt, I guess. And so Steggy put his horn into the ground and started loosening the dirt, and he started making a pile, and Trixie kicked the dirt up. And when they had a big enough pile, then Q flew and put the honeycomb right on top of the pile. Then all three of them went to the woods nearby, and they hid, and they watched. And in time, they saw one big ant, maybe the same one that came to Steggy's house. They saw it come, and it came over, and it looked at it, and it did something like it bit something, and then it went away. It went back where it came from. And they thought, oh boy, that's not doing the job. We'll have to think of something else. Until what happened was a whole bunch of new ants came. And they were walking, but that wasn't the scariest part. There were flying ants too. Some of these big giant creatures, almost as big as Steggy and Trixie, were flying out of that log, and they came through the woods, and they came to that mound. and they flew right over their heads. So that is the end of part 1 of the spilled soup. Stay tuned to next time, and you will hear part 2 that is the finish. Bye-bye.